We are living in a time where hate has become louder, where words are fueling division, and where fear and violence are entering our streets, schools, homes, and places of worship. Every day, people are being targeted because of their faith, race, culture, or simply because they are different. But we refuse to allow hate to define our future. This series is about more than hate crimes. It is about humanity, healing, understanding, and courageous conversations that bring people together instead of tearing them apart. Featuring faith leaders, community advocates, public officials, survivors, and voices from different backgrounds united in confronting hate and building hope. Because love must speak louder than hate, and our shared humanity must always rise above division. Join us for this powerful new series on the SB Life Institute podcast, Conversations on Hate, Healing, Unity, and Hope. Coming soon.
Peace and blessings be with you all, and welcome to SB Life Institute podcast, Inspire, Serve, and Build. Today we are addressing a very important and emotional issue affecting our society today: the rise of hate crime, division, racism, antisemitism, Islamophobia, and the growing polarization we are witnessing across our city and nation. It is very heartbreaking that in a city as diverse and beautiful as New York, hatred continues to rear its ugly head. We are seeing attacks on people because of their faith, because of their race, ethnicity, background, or simply because they are different than us. But today, it's not only about discussing the problem that we are facing, it's about building solutions, strengthening relationships, and reminding people that humanity must come first and not hatred. I'm quite delighted and honored to welcome someone who has constantly stood for unity and togetherness, inclusion, and always stood beside the people of Queens. Our Borough President, my brother, Donovan Richards. It's an honor for me to have you here on our podcast and for you to join us today despite of your busy schedule. I would like to ask that many people today feel disturbed by the amount of hate we are witnessing today in our society. Whether it is anti-Semitism, and up to yesterday, we joined with community leaders, our local politicians and others to stand beside the Jewish community because of the hate that was directed towards their community. We also not only witnessing the rise of anti-Semitism, but also anti-Black racism, Islamophobia, attacks against the Asian community, immigration issues, and people are hurting. It would be nice if you can speak of that from yourself being the Borough President and being at the realm, looking out and advocating for unity. I will glad for if we can start from that point.
Well, let me start by saying thank you, Imam, because this is the way we
Yeah,
facilitate dialogue through such a challenging time that our city and our nation is facing. And, I just remind people a lot of this is starting from the top.
yeah,
What we see when we see ICE coming into our neighborhoods and treating immigrants like anybody, raiding their homes,
yeah,
displacing them from their children.
exactly.
You see these actions, it's deeply disturbing because every morning when I wake up, I don't know what I'm going to encounter as a borough
Exactly.
president
Yeah,
in the most diverse county in the United States of America, for that fact. But what we saw yesterday, for instance, SWAT stickers being placed on synagogues and
synagogues.
homes. And you're coming into people's what we consider safe space. And, and whether it's Islamophobia, which we see a lot of as well. And let me
Yeah,
just remind you that for every one hate crime reported, there's at least 10 to 15 that go unreported.
exactly.
So even though the New York City Police Department will put out
Statistics.
statistics,
Yeah,
as a former chairman of the public safety committee, I can tell you that somebody
It's
who's
not a reflection of the
it's not a
reality.
reflection
Reflection
because
of the reality.
everybody's not
Yeah.
going to report.
Yeah.
And more importantly, a lot of people aren't going to report because of the fear of immigration,
Yeah.
especially depending on your citizen
Yes.
status.
Yeah, so definitely. And, I will say that what concerns me the most as a religious leader, have been in New York for the past 13 years serving as the imam, 13 going on to 14 years. One of the things that I'm noticing that hate is becoming something that is normalized
Yep.
because people are becoming desensitized to languages that divides and dehumanize us. And I think as well, social media plays a very important role where that is concerned. Yourself being in the realm of one of the most diverse borough in the world, I'll say, you have a very peculiar, status in terms of advocating for them. From your perspective, as the borough president, I'll say, what concerns you the most right now in terms of this matter?
Violence,
Yeah,
certainly because we're in such a polarizing time. You don't know if you're going to wake up and someone is going to just kill somebody based on who they love or what their ethnicity is or who do they worship. And I think we've gotten to such a volatile situation that most importantly would also impact us is what happens with our children. We're supposed to be guiding lights to our
yeah,
children.
yeah,
So we are literally setting generations back in terms of peace. Now, there are some good things happening. I mean, you were
yes,
part of the Queen General Assembly.
yeah, of
That
course,
continues that work to make sure that we are bringing people from different walks of life collectively together has definitely made a huge difference. And I think will continue to make a huge difference across the board. Every night we hold a cultural event at Borough Hall.
yeah.
Tonight, when I leave here, I'm actually heading back to Borough Hall because we're hosting the Colombian consulate, which is
Yeah,
coming in.
and you were talking about that. I
Right.
don't mean to cut you. You'll continue your thought. The being from Guyana, I know that they will be hosting our
Got
on the
independence.
independence their things sometime in this month, which is the borough office has always played an important role in bringing people together. But one of the things I'll say that you being at the realm and you work very closely with religious leaders, it will be very nice if you can emphasize the importance for inclusion in advocating for this. Because me being a religious leader, I'll say this frankly, I say it openly, that religious leaders in the whole, some of our people often think that the mosque or the church or the mandirs are only place for spirituality. So
Right.
they're not somehow
Right.
advocating, or when things happen, we're somehow isolated. And I know while your voice is very powerful, that it's important for us to come together as religious leaders as well, and advocate, work alongside you, because it involved with our kids or children. Yesterday, standing up, one of the things that came out of the discussion, and then probably you can talk about the school system, that a recommendation was made that if it's possible, I don't know how we can do that, but allocating 60 seconds, the rabbi said
Mhm.
yesterday. He's a close friend of mine, and he told me, his synagogue was attacked. So yesterday went there, and he talked openly. He says it will be nice if the educational system can actually have 2 minutes before everyone assemble, because it's diverse,
Mhm.
and take one moment of reflection where they pray in their culture and have words of reflection,
Mhm.
whether it's in the classroom or whether it's openly, so that they will grow up knowing someone else's culture, or that is being taught and practiced in the educational system. What role do you think the educational system have in terms of this?
Well, definitely separation between church and state, so we
Yes,
got to be cognizant of that.
yeah, hundred
But
percent.
there are things that go on, and I know because I'm the father, proud son
Yeah,
of a father of a son who's going to graduate the end of this year. I know for his school they do something called Respectful Week,
yeah,
Respectful All Week,
yeah,
and I think that that is one of the most dynamic initiatives because you literally are diving into different cultures. And one of the things that brings us all together in Queens is food, right?
mhm,
And I think those multicultural nights, those days where they are learning about different cultures, like my son, and there's a lot being enacted, by the way, within the schools. Holocaust funding set aside to ensure that There's more education on the Holocaust, more education around Black studies, Asian studies, and there's still more work that needs to be done. South Asian studies, there still needs to be a lot more work that we do collectively to increase the knowledge of these cultures amongst the different school bodies. But I will say that you have legislators who are fighting day in and day out. We're having a conversation around the state right now. There's a state budget negotiation going on. A lot of the negotiations going on there also centered around money for education.
Yeah.
And yes, everything is not going to be in the house of worship. Everything's not going to be in the mosque or in my church. But there are a lot of initiatives taking place that I think we just need to do a better job at facilitating. We have
Uh,
FIFA coming into our borough. Like,
Yeah.
how are we giving people a taste of the different cultures,
Culture.
being that we have FIFA coming into our backyard too?
And there, I guess that encouragement is there because sometimes parents or people within our community, and I'm not saying in a negative way, is to show the awareness to participate in
Right.
these gatherings. I
I'll
know
just
times.
I'll make an example. I mean, even marching in Holy was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Like, to see different people from different walks of life come in and, get a little chalk thrown on them, and to really celebrate the Festival of Lights is also something. So I think Queens has a lot that we're harnessing. There's a lot that we can do to make sure that each one of us on our respective corners, and you do this
Yeah.
by example every day. I know I have to show up in every corner that I'm requested to every
Yeah.
day, but I think our spiritual leaders also have an obligation. And I think we've done some of that even
Yeah.
when the immigration raids were kicking off and there was a lot of fear, having faith leaders at Borough Hall, having our nonprofits all centers that
Roundtable
work together.
discussion.
Roundtable
Something
discussion.
discussions. So the conversation, continuing the conversation, and also the educational starting from the very school system. But as you said, that it has to happen in a unique way that fits the
Right.
laws of the land. So we will encourage everyone to have their kids participate whenever you
Exactly.
have a cultural day to actually, advocate for your culture and support other people's culture. Not meaning that you have to cross over, but be aware of that particular culture.
Right. And I know tomorrow, for instance, I'll be at a elementary school, and one of the things they focus on through trying to break down those silos is through poetry.
Yeah.
So tomorrow I'll be in a school with a diverse subset of kids who have been
Yeah.
focused on writing their stories through poetry. So it's those small things that we can do, but every little bit counts.
Yeah. Now the other thing I would like to, for maybe we can discuss of how important it is when we recognize hate, or we a part of a conversation, or we see something, we say something, and people who are faced with this, sometimes, quite often, they're scared to go forward and report this to the NYPD. And I had this discussion with someone a few weeks ago, a colleague of mine from my mosque. He had a very unpleasant encounter with someone living in his space, where Muslims do not basically use pork. So this person, use
Decide to
that,
use it
like
as a-
use it as a
tool.
way, as a tool against him, sprinkle in the water, whatever the case may be. And I think family member didn't want to create
That sort of
that.
dynamic.
Yeah,
Mm.
that means you have to get the
You didn't
NYPD
want a law-
involved.
right,
Yeah, you have to get
enforcement
NYPD
response.
involved. But I took him to the local precinct because I'm trying to let him know, like others, that when something like this happened to you, whether you're Muslim, Christian, you're from the minority community, you have to take that stand and get that support.
Right.
And go and report
And
it.
we need that data.
Yeah.
And because otherwise this person will not stop there. Normally when people participate in something like that you may give them an inch, they're going to take a foot eventually. So
Yeah.
the most important thing is to make sure that we are doing reporting, but there are mechanisms in place. And one of those mechanisms was the creation of the Office to Prevent Hate Crimes, which I co-sponsored when I
Yeah.
was Public Safety Chair in the City Council. That office is tasked with funding local organizations.
Yeah.
So you have a few in this district, I know for a fact.
Yeah.
VJ used to VJ used to head the Community Education Council. I believe he's still running the mayor's office to prevent hate crimes.
Yes, he's there.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, yeah.
So his job is to now create a network of organizations that if you're afraid to go to the police department, you can literally contact and call, and they are getting funding for that. So we need to make sure, one, that pool of funding increases over time. That the first year under de Blasio was very little funding. Mayor Adams, to his credit, did expand more funding opportunities to it, and I think now our mayor has a real opportunity to expand the
Yeah.
service of that office as well.
Right. So thank you so much for that insight. The other thing is like many of the places of worship, I can see that there is a sense of struggle because of resources and when it comes to tackling this. But while we are trying to educate the kids from the school, teaching, the importance of understanding other people's culture, that realistically, there are some people that are bent towards racist ideology, and it's hard to break them. We will try our best, but protecting the places of worship, protecting the synagogue, protecting the mosque, protecting the Sikh community, the minority communities and their space. Is there any way maybe you can share how the borough office is actually helping and assisting in terms of monitoring what goes on there
yeah.
because of finances
Well,
and
if
so
there's
forth? And
anything, and we have a hate crimes task force, by
yeah,
the way, so we meet at least bi-monthly, depending on what what the month looks like. If we're seeing a huge increase, we may ramp that up. So I think we monitor along with the DA, with the police department. I'm on ComStat religiously, monitoring at 3 in the morning, looking at numbers to see where we are at as well. Without a doubt, we've definitely seen decrease in certain areas of hate crime. But still, if you're a victim of a hate crime, one is enough,
yeah,
right? Doesn't matter what the crime stats say. So I would say if you have somebody who's having a hard time and they're scared to connect with law enforcement, they can always call our office. We have Office of Immigrant Affairs. We have individuals who work directly with the Office of Prevent Hate Crimes. And that's just another outlet. But I would say you're more important than I am, because as a government, as somebody in government, we often are labeled. Are they going to give our information to ICE, right? And
yeah,
I think that that's a big concern amongst immigrant communities as well. So I do believe that you now have more outlets and opportunities than ever before. And this is why some of the data is being reported more accurately now, by the way, because actually we would see 12 hate crimes reported, but when you're seeing in the hundreds now, that also lets us know that the system is working and that there is a trust being facilitated and built somewhere to do more reporting.
yeah. So I also saw that there, when I talk about resources in terms of surveillance cameras and so forth, like some of the communities are quite
Okay.
like quite, it's challenging them for them to raise funds for that. And I see that their city and some of the offices are advocating for religious organizations to
Yes.
come forward and help and assist. But it's quite challenging to navigate that, to know who to go to help, because most of these places of worship do not know how to fill up an application. They might need someone to help them because it's so important. Look, for example, in many instances, I think like a couple months ago, one of the places of worship was vandalized, basically, right? And the camera was not working.
Okay.
Like, so people, they're prioritizing: should I go and get a camera, or somehow do something else that the mosque actually needs? So that resource,
And there are federal grants for that, by the way. And
yeah,
there's a Rabbi Kogan out of Forest Hills
yeah,
who normally does, and we could probably look at organizing this again, but who does the faith-based security applications in
yeah,
concert with local organizations. You also have I think the JCCRC or the JCCRP also does this application. And yes, it is cumbersome, but I think they've narrowed it down in a way that it's easier for houses of worship to digest. But we all are brothers keepers and
yeah.
sisters keepers. So let's figure out how can we
Help each other.
collectively organize
Organized,
to
yeah,
have one of those, because there will be more security grant funding as we move forward as well.
yeah. So
And I know, not to cut you off, like Senator Schumer is a big advocate for that. Our congressional delegation, big advocates to ensuring that security grant funding is going into houses of worship. So I think there's definitely some segue to really work together on that.
as we're discussing this as well, I think the NYPD has an important role in playing where this is concerned. There is a lot of hate crime that is happening on social media. And I'm very actively, for the past 13 years or more, I've been actively involved in basically using the social media and that platform as a conduit to get information out.
Yep.
Comments, posts, sometimes it's overlooked.
No, I know.
I wouldn't want to say this openly that we have to come together to sensitize our people how to go about and how do we recognize this, because it's a thin line. I'm saying it's sometimes frustrating that when you're seeing that you're attacked, these people are attacked because of their religion,
Mhm.
and then you're saying it cannot be considered as hate crime because hate crime you have to know the intention X, Y, and Z. The definition, there's a thin line there,
Oh, sure.
and so maybe we can look at a way, religious leaders, community leaders, everyone whole hand together and try to see how we can monitor the social media. I know there are so many different ways now.
Yeah.
People are looking now in muzzling individuals in a negative way.
Right.
You know, we can muzzle people with that are spewing hate rather than muzzling people that has that freedom of speech.
Right.
And I'm being open with you because we know that in TikTok now, people are being muzzled.
Yep.
They can't see as soon as you post something that, and there are keywords. They're
Well,
just
it's the algorithm.
yeah.
The power of the
Algorithm.
And I think when you look at platforms like X,
Yeah.
you know, which really, I mean, I'm not even on it as much anymore because it's just too volatile.
Yeah.
You know, and we
Yeah.
have to also be able to protect our peace of mind too,
Yes,
because a
of
lot of
course.
people are just living with the anxiety, and it's a lot. What I would say is there is freedom of speech.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't mean we don't have control of our pages as well, right? So for government, it's a fine line.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what to do, but for government, we have to keep it open. Unfortunately, it's open to the public. You pretty much can say whatever the hell you want to say, and you're lucky if the authorities address it. Now, when it gets to threats, that's when it gets a little bit more serious. So
Yeah.
if you're reading something and you think there's a fine line between the First Amendment and a threat, that should absolutely be given to us. And I know I went through it. Anyway, there was a scenario where I was getting threatened for over a year,
Yeah.
and it took a very long time for the police department to actually, I want to say,
And you're in
address
this,
the issue.
and you're in that
And I'm in
position.
the position.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go out and cry to the New York Post or cry to the Daily News. I had to
Mhm.
make sure that there were things put in place to ensure my family's safety, to ensure my office safety, even before my own safety.
Yeah.
You know, in a lot of scenarios, I'm more worried about who's with me every day. People are traveling, people are in the office. And we've had individuals who've come into our office. I mean, we know them, they're notorious.
Yeah.
They come in and they videotape, but they understood the line, and I have police there. And all police
Yeah.
can do is say, "Listen, sir, you know, you're in a public building, but you can't disturb them this way, and you got to leave." And you know, you wake up in the morning, you don't know if those individuals are going to take it to another step. And I'll leave it at that. So there is a fine line, but I do think all we can do, because social media also with the bots,
Yeah.
people feel emboldened now. You got to think
With the
this
presence
Trump
of AI.
administration, AI. Oh, I mean, people really feel emboldened to say whatever they want to say online nowadays, and they know they can hide behind a cartoon,
Yeah.
right? So it's what are you gonna do? The minute you delete one cartoon, then they created another profile.
Yeah.
Some of these individuals are not. They're not dealing with, you know, they got some real mental health
Yeah.
issues that they have.
So the issue why I'm raising this, Bar President, is simply because like when someone posts something, it has that ripple effect.
Yes.
If they have that ripple effect, so it spreads like a wildfire, and then the chaos is there. Someone gets this wild, bright idea to go and cause harm. It transitioned from social media to the actual day to day. All it takes is someone to say, I have this. This is what you have this emotion, and then you go out and you do something that is not aligned.
Well, I will tell you, counterterrorism monitors.
Yes,
But if
great.
you see something that you believe is really crossing that line, call it in. You know, you could call it into us. You can call it into community affairs. Better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, I call them keyboard thugs. You know,
Yeah.
they hide behind the keyboard.
Keyboards. Yeah.
And if they saw me on Jamaica Avenue, I may not say anything. But that's just the reality we live in. being that we have this internet world. And yes, we should all be concerned with AI because people can now put out a poster of you saying something you never even said.
Said yes,
And
exactly.
we've seen that some examples of that in this past campaign election season, and we'll see more of it after this. So we just have to. What I want us focus on is we just have to be the light,
Yeah.
and I think we have to continue to do because there are some things that we're doing a lot right across the borough.
Yes.
Everywhere you go, people are talking about the diversity of Queens County. There's a
And
reason why the
thanks to
World Cup chose Queens
yeah.
for their fan base experience. They didn't go to the Bronx or go to no offense to the Bronx and Manhattan. They could have did Lincoln Center. They chose Queens.
We want to thank you for your leadership too, because you know
It's a team
yourself
effort.
being there, advocating. And I look at the borough office. I have something else I want to raise with you in the few minutes that we have remaining. But looking at the borough office and the diverse programs that you're having in that celebration, it sends us a great. You know, sometimes you don't have to stand up at a pulpit and say something or a platform and speak, but rather through your action, through your inclusion, through your presence. And we will say that to everyone that is in that position of authority to ensure that you show up when it matters.
And I'll
And
say this: it's a lot on the office. It's a lot on the comms team. It's
yeah,
a lot on our community affairs. It's a lot on all of us. It's a lot on the shoulders. But Dr. King said, we will remember those who were silent, right?
yeah,
And so, yes, we are stretching ourselves way beyond the realm of quote unquote what we're supposed to do. We could basically do constituent services and go home every day and take a nap. But I do recognize that the cultural events take on even a larger meaning during this moment. So if we're not projecting that, then we are aiding and abetting some of the people online. We get the comments all the time. I mean, it's gotten a little better recently, but people realize that no matter how much you throw at us, we're going to continue to do this
yeah.
work. And we're going to do it for everybody. And no, I can't host 190 countries with 360 languages of events, but we could daggone sure fight to make sure that we're projecting.
So, lastly, we wanted to for us to speak for a few minutes concerning there is this notion that when we talk about hate crime, that it's only about religious groups. There is hate crime that is directed towards African American community and also towards the LGBT community and other communities. How important it is for us to sensitize people about that aspect, because when we think of hate crime, we think about a specific group of people,
Mhm.
and we tend to forget about the rising hate towards people of color on a particular demographic,
And
basically.
what I'll say is we all should take issue with it.
Yeah,
I often notice, and as a first black man, it's not lost on me.
yeah,
If there's a anti-black crime, is silence,
yeah,
right? And our community has fought through the '60s, the Civil Rights Act, which Trump is
yeah,
rolling back parts of that now.
yeah,
We've been here before. We've been conditioned to sort of take a lot on our shoulders. Doesn't mean it's right for people to not speak up, but I would say they're going to come for me in the evening. They're going to come for you in the morning.
yeah.
We all are in this battle together because hate doesn't discriminate.
Of course.
It festers. And so I've just learned all I can do is try to live my life, you know, to the degree of what people have elected me to do and to project. Even when you have those painful moments where you're like, well, I wish maybe these folks could have acknowledged this. But at the end of the day, I don't really have time to cry tears. We
Yeah,
have to get out there. I have to stand up for all 2.4 million residents, whether they're Democrat, whether they're Republican, whether they're Green, whether they're LGBTQI, whatever you are. If we see any hate festering towards you, we're going to speak up on that. And we
yeah,
try to use our social media brand to do that. We will try to do every rally we can when I can attend, but if not, we're going to have a presence here to make sure that that the community knows that this office will stand with you. And we did that. I mean, in my first year as borough president, we saw a lot of anti-Asian hate
yes,
and a lot of hate crimes, a lot of it stemming and not making an excuse from mental health, copycats too on the trains, um, people who really needed these services coming out of COVID. So there is a boomerang effect on public health, behavioral health, What are we doing to make sure that we are resourcing community? This is why I invest $400 million across the borough into different programs and schools. And we're very strategic and intentional on where we're investing, because if we don't get at the root causes of why people feel this way, then we're just spinning our heels. We're going to run into this for the next generations to come. So we see what's happening at the federal level. And I think it's just incumbent upon each and every one of us to use your channel. Hey, even if you're reaching 1,000 people, you may change the heart of
Yeah.
somebody at number 999, who might have been on there, ready to rail against the first Black borough president. So we just do all we can do is we can try to win people's hearts over. But also what I say is let the dead bury the dead. We don't have time to really spend a lot of time with somebody who's going to hate me because of color. I've been in rooms where people don't want to shake my hand as the borough president.
Yeah.
Imagine how I feel. I'm like, did I do something to you?
But quite people forget that when they hate, they're affecting themselves
Exactly.
more. Like
Exactly.
I'm a healthcare chaplain and I'm also a life coach. And I see this in terms, emotional intelligence is important. And then if people do take a moment and reflect back, and when they project that hate, they're the one that affected them much more.
Right.
That we cannot give people, and I'll say that to our listeners, that we cannot give people that power to control your emotions, so to speak. We get agitated, we get angry. It hurts.
And we're humans. And we all have some bias. But that's why we all try to work to collectively, and you sit at those tables, we do events, we show up for one another, because that's the only way to really change and to really minimize. You're never going to stop everything. Some people, hate is not so. It's like when I go to the park with my son, I see Asian kids and I see white kids and I see Jewish kids, I see Muslim kids, and they just they only know the slide. They ain't slipping and sliding against each other. But the bottom line is hate is taught. Hate is taught.
No, it's not inherited.
So
Definitely,
we all have to be better. And I think that's that personal onus on us.
Creating that atmosphere as well, that will be one that brings harmony and togetherness. And cohesiveness.
And I just want to add, even as we talk about major development projects in Queens, you have the Trump administration. Donald Trump is on TV saying we want to cut diversity, equity, inclusion.
Yes.
Well, we fight, and I just was in a room today with about 500 infrastructure builders, and I recited, because it's important for us to say it out loud. I don't care what the room is. I don't care how
because
many
silence means
complicity. Yep. And so I made it clear, and I said, listen, while Trump administration is challenging diversity, equity, and inclusion, we celebrated in Queens County, and we wanted to be part of our major economic development project. And we just have to be, and I'm once again very intentional when I go in those sort of rooms to make sure that I say it, because it's not good enough for me to preach it in my office. And then when you get out in front of 700 people, there may be somebody there that doesn't want to hire immigrant, for all I know, or doesn't want to hire somebody based on their race or ethnicity or who they love. Maybe we change the mind. I don't know if I will, but at least I made it clear we were not silent.
So, Borough President, thank you so much for being a friend to our community and for your presence here today. Your voice carries weight, and as a person that came into this community to be a leader for the past 13, 14 years, I've noticed your growth and noticed your leadership, and I wish you all the best.
And I want to sincerely just thank you, because as you grow, you meet people in different spaces. And very important for me to understand the complexities of what's happening in the community, right? And to still be able to come into the mosque and serve food with you, or to come out, and celebrate at the iftar with you. All of those exchanges are what really, and when we post that, those pictures, it's a very powerful representation, because it sends a message that, yes, he is the first Black man, but he's here to serve everybody. Service is not a choice for us. It's what we have to do. And we'll build a stronger Queens. Because I have faith in Queens, by the way. I have deep faith, despite what we might have saw yesterday. The promise of Queens won't be broken, because
one of the things I have in mind, that those signs were removed, but the people stood there together, and much more
Right.
because the signs of hate will go away.
Exactly.
But when people come together, yesterday was a powerful gathering because of the people that were there to show support.
Yep.
It's like this powerful voice that says, "No, I'm a Muslim."
Right.
The tension between everything that is happening in
Right.
the world, right?
Yep. Exactly.
But I look beyond those tensions because we're human beings.
Exactly.
And when we see hate, we cannot be selective.
Exactly.
Selective
Not
when
outrage,
we
yep.
we may
And I would
not
want the same thing for you. Some
exactly.
Islamophobic.
Yeah.
So I would want the Jewish community. I would want the
Yeah.
Black community. I want the. If
And that's
something
it.
happens to the
Yeah.
LGBTQI brothers, we need to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
That certain things may not align to our religious values. However, we don't distinguish. We
Right.
stand up and say, no, people have the right to live a life that they choose to live,
Right.
and we give them that honor, that freedom, basically. Right. And again, thank you so much. In closing, I will probably ask you to say maybe a few pointers that you want to share with the people that are here, because it's important for them to listen as we conclude, to maybe a point or two from yourself. Closing remarks.
Closing remark. Listen, our diversity is our strength. And I couldn't be prouder to represent a county that is representative of 190 countries, 360 languages and dialects. And, you know, I often laugh about why Queens is so diverse. It's because we get stuck on the Van Wyck. And, you know, now you got to just love everybody once you get stuck on the Van Wyck. But, you know, our diversity is still writing the story. We're still writing the story on our history.
Yeah.
But we cannot deny that over 50% of us are foreign born.
Yeah.
I often talk about my father's journey being the first, my election being the first one he can vote and became a United States citizen in 2020. That is the Queen's story. The Queen's story is the guy pushing the halal card. You know, it's our religious leaders out there every day at the height of the pandemic, feeding our communities, putting themselves in harm. I've seen the greatness in the people around this borough.
Yeah.
It's our Latino organizations like Make the Road in Jackson Heights, who, yes, during this period when people are being disappeared on the streets, we opened the community center up there and we invested in it. They're working with our street vendors and working with those populations to do your Know Your Rights sessions.
Yes.
You know, it's the
education.
it's the Asian cook, you know, on Roosevelt right now, you know, in Flushing, you know, making some of the best dumplings and bubble tea. And, you know, this is our story, right? So it's just how we are inextricably tied together. That's, I think, the message I would want to end with is our stories. And what you'll notice is, yes, we have our differences in Queens, but we have more in common than we don't.
But when the difference come together, different colors, different you know, shades, it comes up and it creates this beautiful mosaic and beautiful picture.
Yes,
that is very pleasing to the eye. And I really pray that we see that. We see that.
And we got work to continue to do it. We're doing it with our community boards, by the way. This is what
I'm glad that I'm able to join the community.
We're doing, not to throw it out because you're here, but this is why we're doing this work, because this is what I think strengthens our civic foundations and also protects us from what we know is coming down from the federal from the federal government right now. But also, how do we, in the long term, strengthen democracy here, strengthen our cultural fabric here to push back against this. This won't be the last time we see this in our country. Unfortunately, it's here. It's always been here. It's been silent in some cases, but the work we do now builds a stronger foundation for our borough.
In my closing remark would be like, let's be proactive rather than reactive. Because quite often we're silent, and when something happens, then we jump. Like, we have to create those systematic approach that we have mentioned during this discourse. Education, participate with other communities to tackle this before it shows its blooms up. So thank you so much. Kindly share this podcast. I'm your host, Safraz Bacchus from SB Life Institute Podcast. Have a blessed day. Peace and love.